Alright guys, happy Father's Day, and I'm really sorry for the video and because I have been having some problems with my phone, and fortunately for that the gigabyte wasn't enough to cover the case for the phone because I was about to record it and put this on YouTube, but eventually I have some problems with it, so today we're actually going to use my iPad to film it, okay? But anyways, let's start. Who is Greg Universe? Greg Universe is actually the father of Steven Universe, and he was also the late partner of Rose Quartz. So Rose actually just gave up her own form into having Steven being born in this universe. Greg apparently just struggled financially for most, if not all, for his adult life ever since he apparently got dropped out of college, if I'm not mistaken. So eventually, in royalty check and Drop Me Dad, he apparently just becomes a millionaire and uses some of the money to go on a road trip with Steven and Pearl. Alright. As Steven actually became more involved with the Crystal Gem, Greg had to continue supporting his son and learn the faith of him for Steven's safety during his missions. After living in his van for years, Greg had moved to the beach house in the future. Steven decides to move out and find himself in the world. So eventually, for the entirety of the original series and the movie, and Rosebuds, Greg apparently has a wavelength. But in the climax of Bluebird, Escape from Aquamarine Greg cracked Eyeball's chisel and cut his hair. Now, there was actually a pyramid shading at the bottom. This was actually similar to Lapis Lazulie's hair, So eventually, Steven and Greg actually fused themselves in the movie, Steven Universe the movie, where they fused into Steg. So eventually, Steg is actually a half human and a half gem. It's actually similar to Stevonnie, where Steven and Connie apparently fused themselves, but eventually, it's more taller than him because they're not really muscular, So eventually, in those games, Steven Universe apparently has his father, who has an ability to touch music, fathering skills, wisdom. He has an art skill as well. And in Save the Light, apparently, he has Damage Jam, Heal Jam, and Star Jam as well. So basically, in Mr. Universe, it is known that he had a very strained relationship with his parents to have them a limited contact over the years. Nevertheless, he has written of them an attempt to keep in touch, but despite not being answered. As a child, he was raised in an ordinary yet strict environment. He had curfews, chaperones, and meatloaf every Thursday. His parents had forced him to participate in many activities, but Greg apparently resented and tried to hide from his parents to have his own child, which ironically receives Greg's less cryonic life, boring life. So basically, Greg and Steven both get along together. They have a good father and son relationship, So basically what I was going to say is that Greg apparently is a friendly father. He's also the musician. And I know he also misses his wife Rose Quartz. But Steven now remembers and his dad tries to accept it. Rose Quartz was actually Greg's life before she gave up a physical form to bring Steven. She was only attending at Greg's concert. In some episodes, Rose apparently just gave out into her form, but in some episodes she's like that. Greg also has a cousin named Andy, who used to visit at the family farm based on tradition. So basically it changed and contributed in some bitterness at the end of the episode as well. Greg also is friends with the Crystal Gems, Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl as well. Despite their best doing these kinds of stuff, Greg decides to let the Crystal Gem stay with him. Garnet is actually the most Crystal Gem that treats Greg with the most respect. Amethyst is actually getting very well with Greg at times, but basically for Amethyst Amateur, she has a love for human activities and loves to slack off at times. Pearl apparently has revivals of Rose's love, and apparently convinces Rose from Rainbow Quartz. So basically what I was gonna say is that, to Pearl's horror, in the events of Mr. Greg, their relationship is much better about Rose. So for Doug and Frikana Misawan, who are Connie's parents, apparently Greg wants to come off as good as a responsible parent of Connie's parents. They have an approval and indicating that him and Steven, despite this, has primarily a good parent-to-parent relationship with them. Peridot also is friends with Greg, but basically what I was going to say is that Peridot doesn't understand Earth very well, you know? Marty was apparently Greg's manager. As a one-man band, Mr. Universe, he was very exploitive of Greg and taking 75% of his earnings. So apparently, he returns the episode job beat that to advise Guac Cola. Guac Cola is apparently a parody of guacamole and cola. Guacamole is actually a Mexican dessert with Mexican dip where they use avocado, tomatoes, lime juice, onions, and cilantro. They also use salt and pepper for tasting as well, you know. So basically, his voice was actually Tom Sharpling, who also voices Yellowtail, who is Onion's dad, and this is actually like in Mr. Universe, Greg wore braces in middle school and was a manatee and wrestler, but his parents were actually forced to join this group. So what I really think about Greg Universe. Greg is apparently the funniest father of Steven Universe. He's a very likable character, and I would just say that he's a very, very good father to Steven. Even though they both miss Rose Quartz is like still like out there waiting for them, hopefully to be reunited someday.